So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the PD&E January webinar, Put Yourself First in 2018. This presentation has been prepared for the National Association of Women in Construction and will be recorded and utilized for training purposes. It will be posted on the national website, Member Center, Toolbox, YouTube channel. By remaining on this conference call, you are giving consent to being part of a recorded session. So I am very pleased this morning to introduce Michelle Mercier. Unfortunately, I don't know Michelle personally, but she comes highly recommended by Jessica Murphy. Michelle considers herself to be a truth teller and a fierce advocate for authentic living. She chose to walk away from a successful career in the corporate sector after realizing her life was built on shoulds and not what she actually wanted. She decided to use this experience to inspire and empower other women to live authentically. Her dreams became a reality when she founded Create Honesty, a company dedicated to providing inspirational programs, products, and services to women all over the world. So with that, I'm going to introduce Michelle, and I'm going to turn over the presentation to Michelle. Hopefully. Michelle, are you there? Michelle? I'm sorry, folks. I'm a little bit of a novice at this whole thing. Okay, Michelle, is now. Michelle? Michelle, are you there?
Jason popped up briefly, but then it
Yay! If everyone could mute themselves on their end, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you have any questions and you want to pop into the chat box as we go, I'll try to monitor that as well.
Come on. Ready?
Michelle?
Hello?
Michelle, is that you?
No, this is Aisha.
Yeah, I need everybody else to mute. I'm trying to get Michelle up.
How do you mute yourself?
There should be perhaps a *6 or something of that nature. Okay, can you hear me? Yes, Michelle, is that you?
That is me. I'm not quite sure what is going on. I'm going to put some headphones in, and if for some reason you lose me again, I will unplug them, because apparently maybe that's a little bit of the challenge here. Sorry about that, ladies.
That's okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Amazing. Look at that technology at its finest. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for bearing with us on that. So again, thank you for having me here. I hope everyone is able to hear me now officially. And you should be able to see my screen as well. So welcome to Put Yourself First in 2018. So as we go along, I'm just going to page down. Thanks for muting. So as we move along through the presentation, just going to give you an idea as to what we're going to be speaking about here. The first point is going to be smash it all and build anew. And that's just a little bit more about my background, as well as, just to give you a little bit more insight into what the last couple of years of my life has looked like since I became kind of what I like to call a corporate refugee.
Hey, Michelle?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you see the attendee list?
Yes, I can.
Can you go up to mode and put it in lecture?
Over my own name, you mean?
No, over the full attendee list at the very top. Do you see mode? Oh, maybe you can't do that. If I should be able to put it in lecture. Now, Michelle, are you still there? No, crap. So unfortunately, folks, because I've switched presenters, I can't put everybody on mute. So if you can try either *6* or some people have a mute on their page, that would be great. Okay, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Yes, you can hear me.
Yep.
Okay. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. So moving forward, ladies, again, apologies. So let's hope that was the last round on that. So if you can see my screen here, you will see the agenda for today. And essentially, we're going to start off. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my background and what brought me to this point of working with Create Honesty and running this organization. We're also going to speak about signs that you need a worthiness boost, and exactly what is a worthiness boost, as well as, how is self-care impacted by worthiness? Many times people will think it's a case of lack of self-discipline, but maybe it's just a matter of you may not feel good enough to move forward with your self-care or to put yourself first on your to-do list. And from there, we're going to move into understanding that self-love trifecta, and I'll definitely tell you what exactly that is when we get there, because that right there is the key to, being able to succeed when I give you the ways to increase your self-care. Okay. So next up, smash it all and build anew, ladies. So, or as I like to call it, my quest for feeling worthy and loving my life. So the girl that you see on this slide, and the girl that I am right now, is definitely not the person that I was a couple years ago. So what I'm looking at is when I was in the corporate sector, I was essentially working anywhere from 60+ hours a week, and I did not really see my children. I didn't have a life, but it was what I was supposed to do. So as I moved through, I climbed the corporate ladder for over a decade. I ran international teams. I did a lot of things that, I like to say, on paper were absolutely amazing to other people, and it was what I was supposed to be doing. That being said, if I got to the top and I got the house, I got the kids, I got the job, I got all that stuff, and I still didn't feel good about myself. I couldn't really get there, and I kind of found myself asking, "Is this it? What's worth it to me? Is this stuff even make me happy?" So basically what ended up happening is amidst a lot of chaos in my life, I ended up losing that corporate job. There were layoffs and I was on maternity leave, and it ended up not taking me back in. So with that in mind, I like to call it, my floor moment, which, everyone I feel like has some sort of a floor moment, whether it's usually on your bathroom floor where you just kind of crumble and don't really know where to begin with your life. And for myself, I had wrapped myself up a lot in, my job and that sense of identity and that sense of being, but I never really knew why I was doing what I was doing. So that's where the title for Create Honesty really came about, because I really wanted to not go that far off the reservation again. And the good thing was that as I started talking to more and more women, there was almost this truth-telling that began happening. That the minute that I said I am not this perfect person that I put out on social media or that people always saw, I don't think I ever posted a picture on social media or anywhere like that without makeup or, not looking my best. And moving to, like you see in that picture, being able to say I'm imperfect and I'm enough, I just want pictures with my kids. I just want to feel joyous about my life. So, basically when you move to the other side of the pictures, the last 2 years have been a journey. It really has been a quest. And the first time that I realized that my sense of worth and well-being were tied to self-love, and self-care was when I was speaking with a coach, and that person said to me, I don't think it's a lack of discipline, because I was able to make plenty of other people money and help other people become successful, but I couldn't do it for myself. There was just something in the way. And, my health was failing. There was lots of different things. So he said, well, just a simple question. He said, do you feel worthy? Do you feel worthy of self-care? Do you feel worthy of being successful at your business? And it was such a simple question, but it really did, it stopped me in my tracks. So if you don't feel worthy, you're not going to want to put yourself to the top of the to-do list. You're going to find external ways to kind of make yourself feel better, helping others at the expense of yourself. So that moves. So there are no prerequisites for worthiness. Some of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with Brené Brown. She's an amazing, amazing woman. If you haven't read her books, I highly recommend it. So when I say there are no prerequisites for worthiness, there are also no qualifiers, ladies. So a lot of us will say, when I lose 10 pounds, I'll feel good about myself. When I, insert somebody's approval here, I will feel good about myself.
What I'll do then, as I get...
ladies, we can hear somebody having a conversation in the background. If you could mute your phones or your computers, that would be great. Thank you.
Just go ahead and let,
so basically, there aren't any caveats, ladies, when you're looking at, saying the statement, I feel worthy, I feel good enough, or, taking care of myself and putting myself first. So that's just a little reminder when you start to hear that voice in the back of your head that says, well, I'll feel better when. There's no qualifiers, no prerequisites. You just need to make the choice. So signs that you need what I like to call a worthiness boost. Boost is not asking for what you want and letting others drive your decisions. How many of us have done something like this? When you give your power over to the meeting, the to-do list, your kids, your boss, and you don't necessarily drive the car in your own life. You're not behind the steering wheel. So I want you to sit back and ask yourself, why is that? Why are you not driving the car of your life? So that is one big sign that maybe it's not a discipline thing. Maybe it is a worthiness thing. And at any given time, ladies, if you want to chat me, I will do my best to catch any comments or questions you may have as I go throughout the presentation. So next up, is navigating away from positive things, or living in chaos, or practicing self-sabotage. So for me, I was used to go, 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 go. There was nothing I couldn't conquer. I ran as fast as I could in my daily life. My health paid the price. Those around me paid the price. But I also found myself kind of turning away from things that were positive in my life. Because when you are living in chaos and you are living in that environment where things go wrong or you're the fixer, as many of us are, it feels very odd to not be living in that. And it feels more comfortable sometimes to move towards the mentality of, oh yeah, I'm going to assume the other shoe will drop. So just really pay attention to the world around you. You know, for me, it took a lot of discomfort for me to slow down and really be able to hear myself think. And I think as women, we tend to, our to-do lists are a mile long anyway, but if we don't even have time to listen to ourselves think and we're just in chaos, we won't know what it is we actually want in life. You just know what you're supposed to do or what you should do. You should pay your bills, obviously, but, you know, are you actually happy? There's a story that Elizabeth Gilbert speaks about. She's the writer of Eat, Pray, Love. And she spoke to a woman who was a lawyer, and the woman called it her yogurt incident, where she had been running on the treadmill of life, and, you know, she passed the bar, she was a successful lawyer, she was everything that she was supposed to be, but then she found herself, as silly as this is, in the yogurt aisle at the supermarket, and she had no idea even what kind of yogurt she liked. It's such a simple thing, but it's a great story to think about, because many times I ask clients or I ask women in my seminars, you know, what makes you happy? What fills you with joy? And sometimes women, they can't even tell me. So, and that's where I found myself asking, you know, I don't know what makes me happy. I'm not even sure how I got here. So again, when you're living in that chaos and you're not slowing down long enough, that can be a problem. Okay, next up, pushing people away that you care about. So I see this a lot. You know, you just shut down. You're on autopilot, especially with couples. Or, you know, there could be jealousy, there could be resentment, things like that. But, you know, if you are not feeling good about yourself, and it's so cliche when they say put your oxygen mask on first and, you know, make sure that you feel good about yourself in order to treat others well. But it's very true, because when you don't feel good about yourself, you're going to reflect that right at others, and you're going to end up pushing people that you care about away. So just be very mindful of that it, you know, to look inward before you push outward. Not holding space for self-care and joy. So this is the big one, and I always say not holding the space, because for myself, I feel like at this point, self-care and joy and, you know, putting myself towards the top of my to-do list are almost sacred. It's almost to a religious experience for me. So I like to say holding space, because a lot of the times we're faced with, you know, just do it. You know, well, just make time. And you have no context around that. It seems like an impossible feat to begin with. But then you're told to just kind of do it, but it doesn't have any meaning behind it. But when you hold space for something, you know, you're holding it sacred to you. And it means that it is something that is imperative to your survival. It's something that is imperative to, you know, your well-being and keeping that energy up and going, as well as your joy. I think a lot of people, like I asked earlier, you know, what makes you happy? And for me, happiness can be fleeting, but living a life of joy is, you know, nonstop. It's the way that you view the world. So if you're not holding space to make sure that you're viewing the world in the way that you actually want, your self-care and your ability to put yourself first will most definitely be impacted. Does anyone have any comments or anything? I'd just like to pause for a second just to make sure, you know, there's nothing I can't answer for you right now. If you want to type it in the chat, I'm happy to answer it as we go along.
Can I make a comment? This is Michelle, another Michelle. You hear me?
Yes.
You know, I'm 63 years old, and I have 3 adult children. From early on, I have literally told them that it was not selfish to make sure you take care of yourself first, because when joy surrounds you and surrounds everyone, it just passes on to them.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying webinars. And I can do things as well at 63. So
Yeah. Whoever has not had their line muted, can you please mute it? Yes. If I heard you correctly, it sounded like you said that you have 2 children and that you preach this, right? Am I correct?
that's correct.
Awesome. When I was working a million hours and not really taking care of myself, there was actually a point where I got a month-long migraine, if you even knew those existed.
That came from...
Yeah, from the stress. And, I wasn't a pleasant person to be around, ever. So my husband can testify to that. So thank you for sharing that, because I do believe it's a way of being and a way of living at this point for your sanity.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the next one. I came across this quote, and I think it goes well with what we're speaking about. So, beautiful girl, take care of yourself, because no one else knows what your soul needs. And again, a very simple statement, but there's nothing more true. When you sit at night and you're laying in bed and your head's going a million miles an hour, who else is there besides you? Who else is there in those quiet moments, to hear what your soul and your being actually needs to keep going in this world? To recharge your energy, to combat the daily challenges and the ups and downs of life. So please keep this in mind, that you are the only one who knows what's good for you. So up next, how is self-care impacted by worthiness? So number 1, when you are feeling worthy, you tend to feel like, you're loving yourself. You approach life with a sense of confidence, and a sense of I am enough. I don't need to look outside. I don't need somebody to, fulfill my, my need for well-being. I need to look at myself and say, okay, am I happy? Am I joyous? Am I living a life that I don't feel the need to escape from? And that does flow into your self-care, because it becomes almost second nature to you. And you move in and you don't, to some point I feel like, especially if you're a mom or you're a caretaker of any sort, you do have a little bit of guilt, and that may not go away. But for the most part, you feel guilt-free when you go into this, because it's not negotiable. It's a part of survival, and it's a part of well-being. And you can say that you are worthy of this. Okay. So when you are not feeling...
Michelle, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Ladies, if you're typing, we can hear it, and it's quite distracting. So either try to mute yourself or perhaps leave the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So when self-care is impacted by not feeling worthy, number 1, you develop unhealthy and neglectful habits. I don't know about you guys, but there have been times when I've gone through a drive-through at McDonald's and I didn't even know I went through it until after I scarfed down the meal and was back at my desk or back at my job, going about my day. Because sometimes we, when we're not putting ourselves first, when we're not, upfront and understanding what we need, again, you're on that hamster wheel, and you can develop unhealthy and neglectful habits. And that's also where weight gain comes, and we'll talk a little bit more later about, a disease or dis-ease in your body. But, I think if you don't slow down long enough and you don't feel worthy of it, then you're not, again, it's not a discipline issue. It's a whether or not, in your core, you're still hearing the stories from other people that have caused you to not feel good enough, or you're just not letting yourself feel worthy of it and understanding fully that you are, and you're the only one who has to decide that. So the next points that we have here is giving up your power to a person, thing, or substance. So, and let me explain here a little bit. A lot of the times I see a lot of women and clients, and for those of you who may be familiar with the Lean In movement that happened a couple of years ago, there is this notion of making sure that you have a seat at the table. You know, so sometimes when you're not feeling worthy or you're burnt out, you know, you picture yourself sitting in a conference room full of people and they're all talking and you have an amazing idea, but you just say, whatever, someone else will figure it out, or you don't feel worthy enough to speak up and say it. Now, that type of a situation can happen throughout your entire life. You give your power of finances over to somebody. You give your power over to somebody in your day-to-day situations. And that also can mean giving up your power and your ability to choose to your schedule, right? So you run here, you run there, you're going to soccer, you're going here, you're going there, but you're not taking the time you need for you, and eventually you will run out of that, you know, or giving it up to a substance. A lot of us choose to numb or use escapism in a negative way with this. So a substance can be anything from food to, you know, alcohol. I have a lot of women, every time I give this, who will raise their hand and say something along the lines of, you know, well, yeah, wine all the time. So, you know, just being mindful of that you're not trying to escape the life that you live, or making sure that you, again, are driving that car and making the decisions in your life, and you're not giving it over to somebody who wants to run it, so that you put yourself back in the driver's seat. Also, so when I say choosing to numb or use escapism in a negative way, so I think we all know there's a connotation with escapism, like you're not facing it, there is a negative connotation with it. But sometimes for me, I like to use it in a bit of a positive way. You know, sometimes my brain just needs to shut off. And whether that's reading a book, which is a bit of escapism, going to see a movie, whatever that may be, I consider that using escapism in a positive way, because it allows me time to shut off the million things that are going on my to-do list in my head, take a breather, look at something else and refocus, and come back stronger. So that's what I mean by using it in a negative versus a positive way. Okay. So falling into dis-ease, so negative emotions manifesting in your body. Some of you may be very familiar with Louise Hay. If you are not, this book is pretty amazing. You can heal your life. But she actually just passed away. I think she was in their late 90s. And she spoke a lot about how your sicknesses or your aches and pains stem from, you know, your emotions and the life that you are living. So, for example, when people say, oh, I'm stressed out, and when I get stressed out, I can feel it right in my neck. And for me, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I ended up with a month-long migraine, which I, again, didn't even know that was a thing. But had I actually stopped and listened to my body, I would have known that was my body's way of saying, you know, slow down. Like, you cannot keep going at this pace. But this book here will speak a lot about, like, literally she has a list of every single ailment you could imagine, and, you know, an emotional component to that. So what I like to tell my clients sometimes is that, you know, you can run, but you can't hide, right, from your body. So you can spend the time, you know, running, and stressed out, but it will eventually catch up to you. And I am a true believer of that, because when you get to a point where you're burnt, it's too late, right? When you're that burnt out, your body taps out first, usually. You get a cold, your back gets thrown out, something like that. And a lot of the times, if you had listened earlier, you know, you could have avoided that. Or if you held space for yourself and held that sacred, you maybe would not have landed where you are. So if you have time to check out this book, it's amazing. But there's a reason, again, they call it disease, because it's a dis-ease within your actual body and within your mind. Does anyone have any comments or questions about, you know, the section that I just went over? No? Okay. All right. So fall in love with taking care of yourself, your mind, body, and spirit. So next up, we are going to talk about what I like to refer to as understanding the self-love trifecta. So again, that is mind, body, spirit. And I like to talk about this with people because you can't have one missing of the trifecta. You have to have all three in play. And a lot of the time, for women especially, we will end up with a mind and spirit, but maybe not the body there. There's a great kind of conversation happening right now around, men and women in marriages and how they approach and how they communicate. And a lot of the times, women will communicate kind of spiritually or emotionally, whereas men communicate and come from a place of, the physical. So, and when you get them both in a room, they try to speak to one another and communicate, and that can be a problem because you're coming from different sides of this triangle. So I always recommend that people, look at all three, and that women don't vote the body off the island so quickly as we maybe do in taking care of ourselves. So let me speak a little bit more about this. So first up, for the mind, it's key. It's key when you're looking at, self-care to make sure that you stop the negative self-talk by using or reframing. So an example of a mantra is, I am choosing to think positive thoughts, right? It sounds very cheesy, and I have clients all the time who are like, you want me to do what? You want me to say this daily? If you could please mute your line, I can hear somebody is speaking in the background. So I'm choosing to think positive thoughts. And when I was first starting my company, anytime I hit a snag, because I knew that there was a tie to worthiness, I would say out loud, and my neighbors probably thought I was crazy because sometimes I was even yelling it, like, I am worth it. I am here, I am doing this, and I'm choosing to think positive. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to think positive thoughts. And that's how it's going to be. There's no if, no and, no but. If a shoe drops or something negative happens, then we will deal with it then. But then I'm going to go back to I am choosing to think positive thoughts. And with that, you kind of fake it till you make it. I had a client today message me and say, I was saying it this morning and I started crying because I don't believe it. And I think hers are more around definitely self-worth. And I said, well, every day it's going to get a little easier because for our lifetime we are told certain stories. There are a lot of stories that women are told either about, be seen, not heard, or, let the guy do it, or, whatever stories you may have told, they've had years to collect. So now you are working on combating them, and it's going to take some time as well. And then also the reframing your negative thoughts. When I started this, I literally remember saying to somebody, the negative thoughts come so fast that I can't even catch them. They just go through my mind and at a rapid speed, and I can't get to them. So you have to kind of start training your mind to say, okay, I hear you, and when I say things like, since, insert bad thing here went wrong, everything will go wrong. Instead of going directly to that, I can say, although it went wrong, I can handle the challenge it presents, and besides, it's just one failure amidst many probable successes. So being able to flip it on its head like that and not just go right down the drain into that hole of, wallowing or negativity. But it takes training, ladies. It takes discipline and training on that end to, really understand what you're thinking, to be able to switch it to a different method. Okay, your body. So again, this is the one that I find with women, they can be most disconnected from, right? You can go to meditation classes, you can, work in a job that makes you feel smart, you can do things like that, but when it comes to treating your body as an equal in that triangle, we don't sometimes. So I always recommend that you kind of apologize it and treat it with the respect it deserves. And that sounds really cheesy, but when you look at that triangle, why not? Why wouldn't you treat it with the respect it deserves. And that goes for, you know, really slowing down, because when I left the corporate landscape and I slowed down long enough to think about my life, you know, I probably dropped, I'd say, about 75 pounds. And because I always say to people that I suited up. I suited up physically, and I suited up mentally, and the weight just kept coming and coming and coming, and I disconnected. I voted my body off the island. I ignored it. Anything else could be brought up, but not that. So I always encourage women to take some time and really finish the sentences below. That says, you know, simple things like, my body does things for me like. You know, it's someone the other day say they were grateful for their legs. You know, just, it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. You know, what has your body done for you lately? You know, and I love my body because, you know, for me, I have 2 little boys. My body did that on a lot of levels. You know, and my body is unique. That is a heck of a soundtrack. Can someone please mute their line? Maybe. Please mute your line. I feel like we have background music.
Sounds like somebody's hold music. So whoever put us on hold. Oh my goodness. Michelle, I'm so sorry about this.
Crazy. Just I'll do a group sing along here. Okay. Anyone? Take yourself off hold, please. Okay. I'm just going to keep talking, and we're going to do it with some background music and hope that you can hear me. Sorry. So the next one is, my body is unique because. So all of us, oh, you really can't hear me at all. Not loud, huh?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, it's annoying, but we can hear you.
Okay, all right, good. So again, my body is unique because I think a lot of the time we spend comparing to others. Woo! Look at that. A lot of the times we spend comparing ourselves to others when it comes to the body department, right? Instead of looking at ourselves and saying, well, what makes me unique? What makes my body, my hair, my smile, my whatever it may be, what do you actually like about yourself, you know, when you are looking at other people? And then, you know, looking at ways of, I can support a partnership with my body by doing what? You know, and I sit down in workshops with women, and I literally have them write out a sheet apologizing to their bodies. And again, sounds a little cheesy, but at the same time, I've had people write everything from, you know, I apologize, body, for shoving you into Spanx last Friday night at a wedding. I apologize, body, for, you know, just eating crap all the time and making the drive-thru a place where they know my name. Yeah. So, you know, things like that. You know, just take a look at these questions when you have a moment, just to kind of do a little, you know, a little soul searching with them. Okay. So next up is spirit. So, and this is an interesting one. And when I say spirit, I'm speaking about, you know, focusing on what increases the power inside you. In that it is extremely important, again, to allow yourself the time to understand what's true for you and what's not. Okay, so, and there's actually, and I should post this document in your group later, but there's actually a little document that I have that's kind of a truth-telling document. And these are just some examples from that. So when something is true for you, you know, you can observe a situation with acceptance and allowance. You know, someone is being, you know, obnoxious, or something bad is happening and it's not happening to you. And also, I can't use the group, I don't think, but thank you for that. I don't think sorry, I'm looking at the chat. So again, you observe a situation with acceptance and allowance. So instead of, on the other side of that, you make judgments and comparisons, and you tell stories about people, and it's all of that kind of blowing out someone's candle to make yours brighter. So that's probably when something's not feeling too good about you, to you, inside of you. So again, your posture opens up. If you ever come into contact with somebody who, kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, who, you may not want to talk to, or their energy is just not jiving with yours. The first thing that you may do is kind of your posture caves in. You don't want to make necessarily direct eye contact, things like that. So you have to pay attention to yourself in those situations. And then you plan your life based on your authenticity, or do you plan your life based on others' opinions of who you are? That's a big one. There are a lot of external expectations placed on women nowadays. And I think sometimes we can get confused between building a life according to others' plans and building one that feels good for us. So just pay attention to that when you're looking at your spirit. Okay, so she made a promise to herself to hold her own well-being sacred. So here we go, ladies. Ways to increase your self-care. Plan for you. I don't know how many of you, I know I had one, a planner that includes every single aspect of my life, whether it's on my phone or whether it is, a physical planner or an Outlook calendar, whatever it may be. Everything's in there, but except just me time, or just time to focus on, take a kind of internal check of, do I like my life? What's going on here? So there are times when I've literally said to women, go get a planner. It can be a cheap one from the dollar store. I don't care what it is, but it's just you. Nothing else goes into that planner, just you. And with that planner, you start one habit at a time, and you master it. 'Tis the season where we all say our resolutions, and we try to be completely gung-ho. You're going to go to the gym every single day, for the rest of 2018. You're going to do a lot of amazing things, and then we get frustrated when we don't. So I always, always recommend you start one habit at a time, and you master it. And what mastering means is a habit usually takes about 3 weeks to kind of get more into a routine for you. And that habit doesn't need to be big. It can be, I'm going to drink X amount of ounces of water per day. It can be, I'm going to read before bed instead of being on my phone. It can be a lot of things, ladies, but it needs to be something that when you accomplish it, you celebrate it. And something that doesn't spark kind of that nasty self-talk in there as well. And removing the all or nothing thinking is key here too. It's a lot of people have that. What I mean by that is, you said you were going to go to the gym every single day this month. You only got there 15 times, so therefore you failed.
This is Robin.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you mute yourself, please? Or are you talking to me? I can't tell. Okay.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
I think this is muted.
So with that all or nothing, so going back to the story I was doing is, if you made it to the gym 15 times this month, is that more than you were? Probably. Is it course or case to just kind of dismiss the progress that you made or what you did? No, it's not. So it never has to be an all or nothing situation. So in the next point that I have on there is set aside 15 non-negotiable minutes a day for you. The way I look at it is when I'm at my busiest, there are 24 hours a day in the day. I would love to sleep, 6 or 7 of them, and I should be able to find 15 minutes to do something that, makes me feel good. It's 15 minutes, and I say non-negotiable because it's such a small amount of time that whether it's reading a book, whether it's just sitting in absolute silence, you should be able to do that, 15 minutes. Another recommendation is beginning a daily gratitude practice. And for those of you who are not familiar with this, it's literally just writing down what you are grateful for in your day. You know, there's great apps for that if you don't want to write a physical list. But when things are at their worst or they feel like they're piling on or you're just at the bottom of your to-do list, you know, this is a way to have you refocus onto the things that are positive in your life so that you don't feel like everything sucks. Because there is always at least one thing that you can write on that list every day or put in your app. And then lastly, it's shutting out the saturation of quick fixes and external impactors. What do I mean by that? So there's a lot of articles that you've all probably seen that are, you know, the top 10 ways to, you know, have the best life you've ever had ever. Or the top 5 ways to lose 100 pounds. Or, you know, these quick fixes. Or in the case of external impactors, social media. Or anyone else's opinion. So, you know, those are the things that you need to shut down. You cannot, I will preach this forever, ensure that the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is grab your phone, scroll through Facebook or scroll through the news or whatever you may have, because automatically the comparison game starts. Or automatically you get external impactors hitting you before you've even had a thought of your own for that day. So ladies, this right here, planning for you and removing that all or nothing thinking, approaching your life with compassion and just setting aside, you know, 15 minutes, non-negotiable, for you and focusing on the positive, it really makes a difference, and the point of it is not to overwhelm you. So with that, this is my final quote for the presentation. I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self-indulgent. Caring for myself is an act of survival. So please keep that in mind, as the other quotes as well and the other stuff in this presentation, because if you were speaking to a good girlfriend and you saw her not taking care of herself, what would you do? How would you view it? You would view it as an act of survival, because your health will be impacted, your well-being, your day-to-day life, the people around you. So it's not a matter of discipline, it's a matter of feeling like you deserve and understanding that you are worthy and deserve this. Because at the end of the day, taking the discipline approach just allows you to run on that hamster wheel of beating yourself up and reinforcing the I'm not good enough, I'm not disciplined enough. But in all honesty, you have to ask yourself, am I worthy? And the answer all the time should be a resounding yes. And if you are not giving yourself a yes, you message me or email me, and I will give it to you. You deserve it. Okay, ladies? And that's all I have. So if there are any questions or comments, I know we're kind of right on the edge of the time. Thank you for staying with the distractions. Somebody just typed. Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot.
And thank you, Michelle. Yeah. We appreciate you powering through as well.
That's okay. And I will post, like I said, the slides will be available. And I'll post some kind of maybe like helpful tools and stuff that I referenced during this for you. And you can always, visit my website. It's very simple, createhonesty.com, or feel free to shoot me an email. I love talking to anyone about this. So any comments, questions, anything I can answer right now, I'll hang on for a little bit. And if not, it was wonderful speaking to all of you. You're welcome, Paula.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. I think great reminders for all of us as we start the new year, and I really appreciate your your engaging style, and we're going to get this posted, everyone, on the YouTube channel, and we'll make sure that the slides get out. As we said, I'll double check back with Jessica to make sure that happens, and we certainly are going to be following up with the conference call provider to understand how we can better manage the background noise. So again, thanks everybody who hung with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you found today's presentation informative.